And welcome, everybody. It's Monday night once again here at Pine Island Research. I'm your host, Jeff Harding, and joining me tonight is my special co host and buddy, Pat Turner. How are you, Pat?
How you doing, Jeff? What's up, buddy?
I'm good. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for asking. It's Halloween. We're going to have some fun. We're going to have some deep conversations, though, too, I predict. And so I'm ready.
Yeah, we've got a few different people scheduled to pop in throughout the night. And I encourage anybody who's in chat who wants to pop on. This is really your night. I mean, people ask me, who are you going to have for a guest tonight? And this is the night that the viewers get to pop on, because I'd like to hear, we can get outside of that Bigfoot box a little bit. And I'm really more interested in people who have spent time maybe camping, hunting, just in the outdoors, and experienced things that seemed strange or seemed weird. Not saying Bigfoot had to have walked past you, you know what I mean? Or patted you on the back and gave you a hug. This is just an evening to share some strange encounters. And if you've got one, we would welcome you to share that with us. I'm going to put the link in chat.
Well, Jeff, I do have a few of those exact descriptive things you laid out myself. So,
well, why don't we start with one? Because I would love to hear it.
Yeah, we might could chime in on one or two or whatever of that. I'm just glad that and you had three choices tonight, man, and you picked me to come on, and you bumped Dr. Disrespect for me.
Yep.
And, that's just like amazing. And a very
he was begging me too. He was begging so hard. I said no.
Right, yeah. And a very, very popular YouTuber this time of year, Trish. You bumped them. And you said no. I just want Pat on the show, and Doc can go do his thing, and Trish can go do her thing, and so thanks.
Trish made me promise to take her out to dinner here next week, but other than that, I just told her Pat's coming on. So
sweet.
We handled that.
So that's where we're at.
Tonight, we're not going to go through and welcome everybody by name. I want everybody to know that they're appreciated, and we're not blind to the fact here at Pine Island Research that you guys got a lot of choices, not only on YouTube, but, with everything. On any night to go spend your time with, you chose your Monday night here on Halloween night, despite all the kids knocking on the door wanting your candy. You're here watching the show, and we appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So the link's in chat. If anybody wants to click it, come on, tell a story. But so, the other night we were talking with Leon, and you were going to do the, what do we call this?
The Leon Challenge.
The Leon Challenge. And I assume you haven't done it yet, but it is in the very near future.
Yes, the potential for it finally happening just went up, I don't know, 10,000%.
Yeah.
So it's all timing. It's just timing is the only issue. Yeah.
So there's a lot of folks who, have heard us talk about this on different channels. They've, even on my old channel before coming to Untold Radio, they heard us talking about it at length one night. But for those who are joining us tonight, or those who are listening to the show on all the podcast platforms we put it out to, come tonight and tomorrow, why don't we explain what the challenge is? I mean, it's really designed to help people overcome that anxiety of being alone in the dark and really not having any control over what may happen. And you start factoring that with their mind and all the things that the mind starts conjuring up that could happen. So it's just one of the most basic exercises you could really do, right?
Yeah. It's pretty simple. It's we'll stick with the road, not a paved road, but walk down a dirt road or a large trail in the middle of the night. There's some caveats that Leon likes to throw in, and I'll address that. In the middle of the night and see what happens. Do it without the traditional lighting. You take it with you just in case, kind of thing, but like try and keep it as dark as possible and just see what happens. What kind of effects will it have on your brain? Will you start getting like Bigfoot on the brain, or what is that? Actually think it's an intriguing experiment, because not a lot of people do that. But I'll say this, Jeff, don't hunters do that all the time?
Sure. Well, I bow hunt. So I mean, typically bow hunting, you're going out well before sunup. You're normally hunting those first few hours of daylight and the last fading hour and a half in the evening. And so you usually typically will try to get to a tree stand or a ground blind or wherever you're hunting from while it's still dark. And if you're hunting in the evening, you're staying there until it's dark. When you walk out, and depending, that could be a ways away to get back to your vehicle, So you're walking, but now here's the thing. In those cases, you'd be crazy not to have a flashlight. And typically, sometimes you might have a sidearm, things like that. The Leon Challenge is designed not to have any of those security blankets in place.
Right. But unfortunately, I take issue with that, that part of the challenge, is only because, I mean, you should never, like, if you have a sidearm, that should never be a security blanket. That should never be
I think that the only reason why I
Yeah.
would ever see anybody having it is if they're hunting, and especially if they're hunting in an area that maybe has wolves or bears or whatnot.
Yeah. And I mean, whatever, dude. I live in North Georgia. I've got coyotes, which, can be somewhat threatening. I mean, they're large canines. And I got black bears. I got snakes, bro. Like, so to not have potentially dangerous people, like, so it's not a talisman, it's not a security blanket. It's if something goes down and I need this tool, I got it. So the firearm thing, I'm just gonna disagree with him on that, for the reasons I just stated, which are very sound reasons. I mean, I think you understand that, Jeff.
Yep.
It's not bad. I mean, dude, I'll wear a gun in Walmart. Like, it's not because I think there's going to be a mass shooting that day. It's just, what if there's an alien attack? I mean, come on, man. Work with me here.
No, I agree. I've got Mogs is backstage. I'm going to pull you up, Mogs. We're just listening to Pat talk a little bit about the Leon Challenge.
Which is what?
We're gonna hear about this.
Okay.
It's typically you would, in your case, Pat, you're gonna drive a car, whether it's a mile away, a couple miles away, to one of these side roads, out in the woods.
Yeah,
that's a gravel road.
Yeah, a deep.
Park the car, get out.
Road. Yeah.
Yeah, You're gonna park the car, get out. No flashlights. No, you're not gonna be on a phone. Just in the dark by yourself and walk, half mile up the road and a half mile back.
Roughly.
It doesn't have to be a half mile, but you're just going to
be
in the dark in the woods by yourself. With
a half mile is pretty far on a mountainy, gravelly road. A switchback road. I mean, yeah. up a side of a ridge. But you have to have a headlamp at least, unless you're out there on a crystal clear full moon night. Then you can see, you know. But you at least have to have a headlamp. You could literally like walk off the side of the road into it.
Sure. And you could maybe, you know, put it on a red light or whatever. You just need something to eliminate your footsteps. I would say even if it was just aimed downward on your walking path, so that you're really not lighting up the woods or anything on the horizon, but you know where you're walking to.
Yeah, you have to be able to see where you're going, obviously. But yeah, I mean that's it. And Leon, the whole point of Leon's challenge is, you know, is kind of this idea of like, see what happens, you know. And I guess maybe for some people nothing would happen, and maybe for some people would just start like every noise turns into an alarm, you know.
I think that's the purpose of the exercise from Leon's perspective. And again, just so people know who are listening, maybe aren't familiar, Leon's not only a close friend of ours, but Leon is pretty well known in the community as being someone who analyzes the psychology of PTSD induced situations, behavior, human behavior, things like that. I think that would accurately describe it. And so the purpose of the exercise is learning to control that runaway feeling that some people's minds would go to. If they heard a little branch break, or they heard a coyote howling, 3 miles away, that they don't come undone and lose it, Don't let your mind get away from what is realistically happening in your area here.
Yeah.
So we had talked about how cool it would be to film somebody doing this, but obviously that'd be hard. I mean, you're going to be out in the dark, first of all. I guess if you were to put an IR self camera on you, that would be one thing, but you'd have to have that kind of equipment,
Yeah, but then you're focused on a mission, and so that kind of goes back to the hunter thing. It's like, well, hunters actually do that quite often.
Yeah,
but they're focused on a mission.
Yeah,
and I don't think the Leon challenge it's not about.
I think leave the technology behind and the lights and the guns and everything, and just be one with nature. Get out there and walk the half mile.
I think what you're saying is the process of trying to film it is actually a distraction from the exercise itself.
Because you'll be focused on filming, and that's exactly what I would do. If I was trying to film it, I'd be nothing but focused on filming it, and I think all kinds of other biases would start creeping in, So I'm like, okay, you know what? To be honest with you, I really don't want to walk down one of these roads at 2-3 o'clock in the morning all by myself without a gun or adequate lighting. But
Stevie says, I'll do it, Jeff. Send me out. I can do a 1/4 mile.
I'll do it and I'll report back. So the only thing you can really do, like content wise, is like do it and then say, here's what happened.
And then another thing would be is that, I could see it would be fairly simplistic to turn on, whether it's like a Zoom audio recorder or just a recorder app on your phone and putting it in your pocket and then saying, okay, forget it's not there. But as you're walking, you could maybe, narrate to yourself. You're basically just talking to yourself,
Yeah.
You're already doing that in your mind as you're walking. You'd just be doing it out loud at that point.
I'd be doing it aloud anyway. The only problem I have is that it is because I know it's recording. And what bias will that like steer me in as far as what I'm saying? Because I know that eventually somebody might hear this.
Yeah.
It's just really, dude, I just want to do it raw. You know, I don't even like solo camping. I don't even like going out there and solo camping, you know, with a fire and all the like traditional safety things. Like, I don't really want to do that.
Well, one of the things that brought this idea up when Leon brought this up to you was one night we were doing a show on my old channel and we were playing Blaine Hycheck's audio recordings that he had recorded at Angleworm Lake up in the Boundary Waters, very remote area. 3 nights of running Zoom recorders that he captured some really interesting stuff on these Zoom recorders. Not only multiple tree knocks from different areas, but huge rocks being thrown into the lake while they're in their tent sleeping, and rocks being thrown and rolled at their tent, things like that. But before the show, we were listening to these tree knocks, just me, you, and Leon kind of on the side. And when there was one single knock, and then the way that Zoom recorder is, you can kind of tell distance and almost, I don't want to say direction, but you can tell that it's when you hear 2 knocks that they're not from the same area because it's a multi-directional microphone setup. But you heard a single knock, then out in the distance you heard a single knock reply, and then there was very clearly a boom, boom, double knock. Now, you have had an experience where you were, why don't you just tell us about that, first of all, where you had experienced a double knock?
Well, it wasn't a double knock. I experienced what you would call a wood knock encounter for half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like it just kept happening, and it blew my mind. I at the time I was like, in my head, I was like, this is not happening. Like, this can't be happening. Like, it was almost like a joke to me or something.
Yeah.
But it had a powerful effect on me.
Yeah.
There's a lot to that I don't want to unpack here.
Well, we don't have to unpack that, but I'm just using it as a reference. So as we're listening to this audio recording, we heard a couple single knocks, but then that really clear double knock, boom, boom. And we're not even live. We're listening to this backstage, me and Lynn. And when you heard that, it was like something really triggered a PTSD type response from you where well, I don't want to even say about. I mean, you came out of your chair and it was very difficult for you to hide how you were feeling at that moment.
It was.
Is that fair?
Yeah, I wanted to put my fist through the wall behind me.
Yeah. You spun around out of your chair onto like a knee on the floor and it was holding your hand up in the air. I thought, because you were muted, I thought somebody had broken your house and was like coming through your front door the way that you were reacting. And when you came back and said, I'm sorry, you guys, just that I heard that and it's like it triggered this. That's when Leon started saying, hey, look, we need to, I've got an exercise you should try here. And right away, your idea to the exercise was there's no way in hell I'm going to do this, but you've warmed up to this idea.
I have. And I could even do it with a combination of a remote solo.
I don't want to induce any PTSD, but I just brought another guest onto the show here.
Happy Halloween.
There we go, dog man.
So what would be the parameters of this test or what time, dark, I'm sure, but what time? 3 o'clock in the morning or?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, whatever. Like, just think about it this way, Moggs, like the juicier, the better, like the tougher, the better, like 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know.
I mean, dark's dark.
10 o'clock at night,
Moggs, do you think that it would induce a different reaction? Let's say if it was 3 hours after dark or whether it was, 3 a.m.
Probably not. it depends on how someone feels about the witching hour and stuff like that. If that comes into
Sure.
play for people, but I think
Yeah,
We
dark,
should-
I mean,
dark
Leon only ever specified it as like the dark, in the dark. So
Okay.
I can't say I'm just impersonating my own sort of opinion of, you know, what would be the creepiest time to go for that walk, you know, 2 a.m. You know.
So for those who are listening in podcasts, just so we need to draw the visual. We have Pat Turner here. We have Russell, or better known as Mogs, from the Mogion Monster channel. And we have now added a fourth to the screen. We have Woofy here. Woofy, your hair looks so well groomed, and your teeth are
I
pearly
tried.
white.
Oh yeah.
milk bone.
I use Dr. Squatch.
Very
Dr. Squatch
Squatch
soap.
dog man though. But
And
I mean,
conditioner.
I dogmen don't get along with Sasquatches, is what I hear.
No, I'm
Yeah,
not a dog
right.
man.
Yeah.
I'm not a dog man. I'm a wolfie.
Yeah, he's a wolf.
Oh.
All right. So are
Not a
you the
scary-
alpha wolf?
I got a scary story.
I want to hear it.
involves it involves a girl in a red cape and hood, and it's all lies. Every last bit of it's lies. Try to tell me I ate her grandma. My ass. I don't eat
Fair
grandmas. I don't eat grandmas.
No.
Two sides to every story. I agree.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and setting the record straight, Wolfie. I think a lot of people have heard that account before and just kind of have thrown you the guilty verdict. But it's nice to hear your side of the story.
Throw me under the bus.
Or the carriage, if you will.
Yeah,
The carriage.
Right.
Oh,
but anyway, happy Halloween. I gotta
happy Halloween.
Oh, whoopee.
It's too hot.
No.
Man.
So for those who are listening on podcast, that was Woofy, who is actually a good friend of ours. If you want to figure out who it is, there are some clues in his background. You can come watch the show on YouTube at a later date and try to figure it out for yourself. The only clue we'll give you is he's from the state of New York. That's a pretty big clue.
Pretty big.
Pretty big state.
Yeah. So before I go too much further, I do have to plug. We're going to do a little giveaway tonight. It's a book called Sasquatch Central by Mike Quast, out in Hanger One Publishing right now, and we're going to give a copy of that book away. Originally, I was going to say, if you haven't subscribed to the Untold Radio Network, we're going to give it away to one of our new subscribers, if you subscribe tonight. But I don't know that there's anybody in chat that hasn't subscribed yet. If you haven't, we'd appreciate it, and thank you ahead of time. But maybe we'll include those. Hey, look at Pat's got a copy of it. We'll include those who simply like the stream, like the show tonight. Go click the like button. At the end of the show, we'll give it away. And we are going to ask you a little trivia question about the book. Okay, Pat, put it down because it can't show it when I ask the trivia question. Trivia question is the book Sasquatch Central by Mike Quast. What state does it take place in?
I can tell you what state it doesn't take place in. You ready?
Georgia?
Hey, Florida.
Why is that?
I'm just goofing. I'm goofing on Matt.
You don't believe there's Squatch down here, do you?
No, that's not my position.
Well, I'm just curious.
Yeah, that's not my position. It's sort of an inside outside joke between me and Matt. Yeah, just
yeah.
It's just a goof.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Maybe a year ago, when we started kind of tongue in cheek telling Matt there's no Sasquatch in Florida, I always found myself kind of asking, why would there be Sasquatch in Florida? And then the more that I've learned from Matt about the green swamp and just I guess there's just this interpretation that people have in their mind that maybe haven't spent a lot of time outside of the tourist areas, Clearwater Beach, Daytona, Miami, all that, Orlando. You don't realize how remote and thick some of these places are in rural Florida, that now I find myself wondering if there were Sasquatch or half of those places, I don't know how the hell you get into them. I mean, this green swamp is pretty, I would say, unfriendly territory. Poisonous snakes, you got alligators. It's not easy to navigate through. What are your thoughts, Mogs? You live down there.
If you want to see Florida, look at it on Google Earth, and look at all the greenways and zoom in, north of Orlando where I am. I mean, we're right on the corner of this greenway of Wekiva State Park, and it goes up it hits Ocala State, Forest, National Forest. It just, everything's so connected here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
If somebody threw out a theory, I don't know who it was a while back, that all the Bigfoot are stuck in a bowl in Florida somewhere, surrounded by all major cities. And if you look at a map, you'll be amazed at, how much greenway is there, and swamp and forest, and
absolutely.
I mean, Florida's already a testament to what could be there that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
like Disney World.
The number of invasive species in Florida really just goes on and on. And we're just talking over the last couple decades is all.
Yeah, all the way down to, I'd say one of the big ones to me is and Moggs, I'm sure you can help me with this. The monkeys from the movie, that are
the original Tarzan movie.
Yeah, but those,
whatever that is. Yeah.
Stevie knows. Stevie has been kayaking or canoeing past an area, I believe, where the monkeys were. Where was that?
That's Silver Springs.
Silver Springs.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think they're chimpanzees.
No, they're
a smaller breed.
They're small, smaller. Yeah. But still, they're they're there.
No, they can survive, right? and they're probably thriving.
There's a lot of them there.
You got to worry about.
Matt shared a video of some kayakers that went through there. These things were cannonballing out of the tops of trees into the river and swimming towards the kayakers because they assumed that the kayakers had food for them, because so many people go there and feed these things that they become really aggressive when they see humans, under the assumption they're going to feed them. But
yeah, I've heard that. I don't know.
So we screwed that up too. Damn.
Yeah, so I think even bigger invasive examples would be the iguanas. I mean, there's so many iguanas down there now, and you've got
pythons.
The snakes, the pythons are
a big issue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's another lizard, tegu. They're a vicious little nasty lizard. They're invasive down here.
Wow.
And the fish. There are so many different species of invasive fish down here. It's crazy, and they'll never recover. There's no way they can turn it around.
Right. It's almost natural.
Yeah, you take the snakehead was one of the invasive species. So they introduced the peacock bass to control the snakehead population. Yeah, didn't work. Now
another invasive
and peacock bass.
Peacock bass are big natural fish from the Brazilian area, the rivers down there in South America, and they bring them up here to Florida. And now those are overpopulating.
Well,
So,
your aquarium fish, your cichlids, your Oscars, your there's a knife fish that's was an aquarium fish, and now you can go sport fish for it in some of these bays.
Wow.
It's an African knife. I don't know. It's just a weird, really weird shaped fish.
Mm.
Also the armored catfish. You guys know them as Plecos, or those. Everybody always had one in their fish tank. I was snorkeling a couple days ago with Stevie, and we were at a spring, and these things were just on the bottom of the spring. These armored catfish. It's just an invasive species, but they were like, 4 pounds, 2 feet long.
Damn.
so in keeping with the theme of the show, Mogs, have you had any strange occurrences or weird experiences when you're out in the woods that you would consider unsettling or unexplainable?
I used to live when I was in Jersey. I used to hike this trail all the time, and it was behind the house, and it was an old, I guess there was an old smelter up on the hill. They did some mining and stuff, but this trail went up. We'd go a couple miles in and sit up on this ledge, but the trail went past this big rock, this huge big boulder just sitting in the middle of the woods. And one day, a friend of mine, we were coming back, and we were on one side of the boulder along the trail, but we heard something walking on the other side, and we're expecting a bear or something, but nothing ever came out. I mean, we were walking down this side of the trail, the rock, and then, it was big enough where it hid whatever was there, but never came out. But it was kind of a little nerve-wracking because you knew something was walking behind you, behind that rock, and we never saw anything. Other than odd occurrences, not really in the woods. What's up, Eric?
Hey, what's up,
Hey.
Mogs? Jeff,
you doing?
Pat?
Media Palace, how are you, Eric?
Doing pretty good. Y'all having a nice Halloween?
We're having a great Halloween here. How about you guys?
Doing good. You guys get any candy?
We got we live in kind of an area where there's probably 30 homes in this area, and maybe half of them have kids that are Halloween trick-or-treating age. And so we don't get a ton of kids, but, the nice thing is the neighborhood organizes it to where they email everybody and say, hey, we're going to trick-or-treat from 5:30 to 8. And so all the kids know, don't go rolling up at 10 p.m. knocking on the door. Nobody's going to answer,
Yeah. Well, I got a couple of beers at a couple of houses we went to, so it worked out.
There you go.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
I put one of my teenage sons in charge of answering the door right before we went on stream here, and I told him, I said, if a kid shows up in a Bigfoot costume, just dump the whole bowl of candy right in his bag and turn the light off. We're done.
The UN.
Oh, and take his picture. Get a blurry picture of him before you let him go.
Oh man.
But yeah, how about you, Mogs? You guys get trick or treaters down there in your area?
There's a lot of trick or treaters going by. I was surprised because I hadn't seen that in a while. Out in Arizona, it was a little different. You didn't get the trick or treaters that much. Like the next town over from Cottonwood is Clarkdale, and they would do a trunk and treat.
Yeah,
and they would park, all their cars, and kids would go there, and they do their trick or treating that way. I always thought that was a little odd, but yeah. So it was cool to see, people walking up and down the streets.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Pat's.
That's Americana right there.
Pat's
Absolutely.
overcoming some technical difficulties here. So yeah, no, are you guys kind of like me? Do you, when you go and buy the candy that you're going to give out, it's candy that you
want?
Yeah.
And then you just pray nobody shows up.
Yeah.
Big bowl of candy and you shove it to it.
I think I've been using the same bag
one
for
for
a couple
you.
years. Yeah.
I noticed something this year on Facebook, and I don't know what it is. I've got some of my friends who, some of them own businesses. Some of them are probably pretty well off, I guess, if you were to measure well off as being financially, and by financial means, they post a picture. I mean, I've seen this a couple times of like a couple cases of full-size candy bars and say, oh, the so-and-sos are ready for Halloween. And I'm thinking, if I was going to give away full-size candy bars, the appreciation that I need for that is I'd give it to the kid who knocks on the door, and then I'd say, hey, you doing well in school? When he says, yeah, I'll say, well, keep it up. That's why I'm giving you a full-size candy bar this year, and send him on his way. Why would you post on Facebook as if everybody on Facebook is going to say, you're so cool for giving away full-size candy? Where does that need to brag about?
I literally saw that. I literally saw like 3 posts about that exact same thing.
I don't get it.
Like, where are the trick-or-treaters? We got the full size going, Yeah.
What are you lacking in your life when it comes to self-esteem to think I need to show everybody that I'm giving away full-size candy bars this year? But I don't get it.
I don't think I ever got it.
I never really noticed it until this year, but this year, boy, you start to see it's a lot of people doing it.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, how about you, Eric? You got a story for us of anything strange or unexplainable or even borderline scary that you'd like to share? I know you probably got a few, but
I think I got a good one. It's gonna sound crazy. I say that every time I'm on a stream. I always say that's gonna sound crazy, but well, I don't know if I should tell this one. No, I have a good story, I guess, and I don't think I've ever told this before, but it's more or less on the paranormal side of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
We're not stuck in the Bigfoot box tonight,
Gotcha. Hopefully you can hear me. Let me put this back up here. So yeah, it was probably around, I want to say 12 or 13. And I always had family coming from South Texas or even Mexico. Sometimes they'd come for the summer and stay with us or whatever. And I would do the same. I'd go down to the border, or sometimes I'd go into Mexico and stay there for the summer. And this one time we had my uncle who rang the doorbell, and this happens quite a bit. But when he opened the doorbell and when he rang the doorbell and my dad opened the door, I saw his face and he was just drained. He looked different. And immediately my mom told me to go downstairs, whatever. And I didn't. I was actually hiding by the stairs because I wanted to hear what was going on. Something was going on. And he proceeded to tell my dad about how his brother-in-law, which my aunt was there as well, his brother-in-law, which was a big guy, 6'3", 6'4", 270, big old boy, he got really sick and they didn't know what was going on. They had no idea. And he just got drained, lost a bunch of weight, and took him to the hospital, and they tried to figure it out. They couldn't figure it out. And so they went to one of these medicine men down there in Mexico. And they told him what was going on or whatever. And then they lit a candle, and that candle exploded. And when it exploded, that guy told them that was kind of a result of what was going on. And apparently someone had done some type of witchcraft or whatever to him. And I'm not sure if I believe that stuff until I heard this story. And my parents are they're very straightforward. They're educated people, and they don't just believe a lot of this stuff that other people do. And so I was kind of that same way. I didn't really believe it. But he started telling the story about how they cured him. So the medicine man told him this thing that they had to do to cure this guy. And what it was is they had to take him in the river, and they had to rinse his body with these peppers. They were dry peppers, okay? And my uncle was there. He saw this happening. Well, he said they had to kill a chicken too. So he said they killed a chicken in this river, and there was no blood, absolutely no blood. And they thought that was weird. And when they started rubbing these dry peppers on him, the peppers swelled up and started bursting all over his body. It's hard to believe, but I believe my uncle when he's saying this because, he's not a no-nonsense guy. And so after they did that, he said it was getting really dark, and they saw some type of shadow stuff going on, entities and stuff around this area is what he was telling me. And so, he says after that he was kind of cured, I guess. I don't know. It was really weird, but Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that, but coming from him, I kind of have a little bit more, a little bit more in the story than just thinking it's just a fairy tale or something. But it was
Yeah.
interesting. He told the story a lot better than I did, but I just remember I was 12 or something, listening to it, scared to death, sitting by the stairs, just kind of listening to it. It was something, but that's just the one that I can remember off the top of my head. Yeah.
Boy, if
That is-
somebody's
that
going to
is
rub
scary.
those peppers all over me, I can think of a couple of spots I would prefer you not to be rubbing
Yeah.
the hot peppers on. But
Yeah, but he, like I said, he was and I remember seeing pictures of this guy when he was sick. They showed us pictures, and like I said, he was a big old dude, and he just deteriorated so fast. It was weird, but he got better, and he's still around. So, yeah.
so Trackway, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
How are you tonight?
I am doing better.
Happy Halloween to you and
Happy
yours.
Halloween. Thank you.
Have you had many trick-or-treaters tonight, or is all the candy stored up for you?
Well, I guess the candy's stored up for me, so nobody. We just had like 2 hours of trick or treat yesterday, and that was it. And I am out in the deer woods and enjoying the night.
Yeah.
Very
What
cool.
any stories of high strangeness or anything intriguing that you've ever had happen to you that you'd like to share with us?
Oh, well.
Hold on, before you do, I'm going to bring in
Hey,
Doug Hychek. How are you, Doug?
good. How's everybody?
Good.
Good.
So,
Hey,
man,
Eric.
Hey,
Hey,
what's going on,
Pat. I haven't met Moggs.
How are you?
Good. I've seen your show.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
He's a YouTube legend.
Yeah, I've seen your
And
show.
this
It's
is-
pretty cool.
Finding the Trackway is in a lot of our chats, and he's on here. He was just
Oh,
getting
cool.
ready to share one of his stories that he's had happen to him while he's out. You're out tonight, as a matter of fact, aren't you? You're spending a couple days out deer hunting.
Yep, I got 10 all set up and spending a couple of days. Is down here Saturday. I had some issue with some lights. I brought somebody back with me, and we're seeing the little green lights again, which almost look like fireflies, but it's too late for the fireflies. So
Yeah.
kind of wondering about that.
Are you talking about like sharch, or what is it? Is it kind of that lime green kind of lights?
Lime green, white,
Jeez.
whitish. We just saw one go through the trees not too
Crazy.
long ago, and probably the scariest thing that happened is in the woods. I don't even want to say it was scary. Long time ago, I was hunting a different area out on the edge of a ridge, and I felt something or heard something. I was packing a tree stand, so I got out late and I had to climb up to the top of the ridge to get out. And it was about this dark, and I got up there, and on the opposite side is a swamp, and something came out of that swamp, and I could hear it walking up through. So at the time, I didn't think nothing that much about it. I thought, maybe it's a deer or something. I don't know. And I turned and I started my walk out the ridge. And as I went, whatever came up out of that bottom was walking behind me. So back then, all we had was just those little yellow, well, not little, those C-operated yellow beam flashlights. And I would turn around and I would check behind me and I wouldn't see nothing. Go down the ridge a little more. Still feels like, there's something there. I can hear it. When I stop, it stops. I turn around and I look, nothing there. And I did that about 4 times. And then there's a point where you drop down off the ridge and start going back down to where all the camping was. And as soon as I got to that point, rather than kind of walking out to the end where it's safer, I just dropped straight down the side of the ridge. I don't know what it was, but it was coyotes following me or what the heck it was. But that was probably that was just one of that area.
And And you've had other things in that area that you've experienced like that too, or?
Yeah, not that far away is where I heard the argument.
Hmm.
And I was just I was out hunting, and I just parked looking up a ridge.
Like that too, or?
And
Not that far away is where I heard the argument. Hey Joe, I need you to mute your YouTube.
I was just oops.
Oops. You got anything else you'd like to tell us about Trevor? Have you had other experiences that?
Yeah, well, that area there
I
is where,
find that guys that do a lot of hunting and are like Pat would pointed out earlier, when you're going out to a tree stand, it's typically in the morning before sunup, in the dark. In the evening, you've hunted until dark, and now it's dark when you're moving back to your vehicle.
this night I was just sitting. It's close to that same area where I felt like I was followed, and I'm looking up a draw. I'm just sitting there, sitting on a log, looking up a draw, and I got like a 10-foot embankment on my right hand side. The hillside goes up like this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just sitting there and I'm watching, and this 8 to 10 inch oak just starts shaking. And next thing, this is the only way I can describe it. It sounded like something was having an argument. There was this really deep, gravelly sound, and then these two higher pitches. And I never could see what it was. And that lasted about a minute or two, and then it stopped. For as quick as it started, it stopped. And at the time, I got excited because I thought, I'm in my early 20s at the time. I got excited thinking, it's a deer. I'm going to see a deer here. And no, that's not what happened. It just stopped. So,
do you think that it was more than one that was there, or do you think it was just one lone species, individual, I should say, that was making that noise?
Oh no, there was two. There was at least, by my count, there was 3 different pitches. So you had this really deep glottal type pitch and glottal, and then you had almost these 2 high shrills. And I remember sitting there thinking, well, maybe that's a bobcat with a turkey in a tree or something. It's going after turkeys. And I wouldn't see bobcats for another 20 years. And I didn't know what it was. So
just sounded agitated.
Yeah, it just sounded like it was unhappy with whatever else it was with. And it was early October, so there was still a tree canopy. And I could not see what was doing it. It just seemed really odd because that was like an 8 to 10 inch oak that was being shook.
Yeah.
And as quickly as it started, it stopped.
Wow. Welcome, Joe, from Western New York Bigfoot. Joe Schneider is joining us. How are you?
I'm okay. I was just listening to what Eric had been saying there, and I just wanted to jump on. And I get, when he said, well, maybe I shouldn't tell this one because it sounds crazy. And I get that because, since you're doing the trick or treat thing here, this is the Halloween trick or treat. This has nothing to do with Bigfoot, but it is one of those crazy stories, man.
Yeah.
And I always thought, I'm going to find some kind of natural explanation for it eventually, and I still cannot find a natural explanation for it. And what it was, and I've told this story before, but there was one time when we were still living down in Virginia, and I was working for VDOT down there. And there was this old guy, old Cajun dude. His name was Sonny. And I had this wart. There was a planter's wart. Y'all know what a planter's wart is, right? And I had it in the palm of my hand. And man, I tried forever to get rid of that thing. Tried to get rid of it. Always come back. And I was talking about it, and Sonny said, he said, I could put some Cajun voodoo on that and take it right away. And I'm like, no, you can't, man. Bullshit. And he's like, I can make it go away. And I'm like, all right, whatever, man. Here you go. Make it go away. And this dude did some kind of weird. He spit in his hand and he rubbed them together and he rubbed it on the wart. And he said some kind of French Cajun words or something that I didn't understand, of course. And he said, no, within a week, that's going to be gone and never come back. All right, sure. Thanks, Sonny. I think you just wanted to put spit on my hand or something. having a good go at the gullible kid. 3 days later, that wart was gone. It was less than a week. 3 days later, that thing had disappeared, and to this very day, it has not come back. And I can't wrap my head around that. And I've always like, there's got to be a natural explanation for it. There's got to be a natural explanation for it. Got to be a natural explanation for it. I've yet to find a natural explanation for it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's creepy.
And you can believe that story or not believe it.
Right.
It is true. That's exactly what happened. And I still don't. That's why I remember it, because it's one of them times that it's like, dude, what?
Yeah.
What? No way. No way. But it ain't there no more, man. Weird.
Well, you know as well as anybody, Joe, being somebody who's had a fairly notable encounter, that sharing a story, the believability of it is not in the burden of the teller. It's up to the
that's
people.
what. Yeah,
They can choose one way or the other, but
yeah, you can take that story for what it is, man. It's just something that tripped me out, man. And
you were talking about Louisiana and stuff like that. I got one thing that came to mind when you were mentioning that, and that's my friend JC, who was displaced by Katrina and moved to Austin. We were going to school together, and his mom was kind of involved with that type of stuff, voodoo or whatever, hoodoo or whatever. And I remember this time we were going to lunch, and we got in his car, and there was a freaking blue crab in his car. Like how that got there, we have no idea. Like it freaked us both out. Like it was a blue crab that was alive.
Yeah,
just moving around on the bottom. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. A blue crab, yeah, in the middle of Austin, Texas. Like so weird. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I don't know. It was weird.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is crazy. Huh. Yeah, there's sometimes just the what makes a story extraordinary is just the unexplainability as to something small like that. I mean,
yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, and it's hard for, it's hard for somebody that's skeptical about a lot of stuff, man, to really, it's hard for, me personally. I'm like, man, what the hell, dude? But what am I going to say about that, man? It's like, do I believe that like everything is magical and magic? And I guess probably, but what am I going to say about that? Obviously, there's some kind of magic that exists, dude. What got rid of that wart?
Yeah.
Power of
It made it
suggestion.
never come back. Just like you said.
There's magic everywhere. I mean, energy itself is magic. Gravity is somewhat magical.
Good point.
So things that we actually understand to a certain degree, there's still an element of magic to them that we don't understand. And that's,
magic is somewhat variable too, Pat. I mean, really, what may be magical to one person may not be magical to the other, just because they have the capability of understanding. Maybe they've experienced something in life that they can reference it to, and it seems logical.
Yeah. Well, in a situation like that, if I was somebody that believed everything he said, could it have been sort of like a power of suggestion type thing that made that happen? Perhaps, but I was the opposite. I didn't believe it at all, and yet it still disappeared. So it couldn't be like the power of suggestion, because I believed in it so much that made it happen,
Sure.
because I didn't believe it was
powerful
going to happen,
thing,
and yet
actually.
it did. And so it's just weird, man.
Yeah.
I'm always like, there's got to be natural explanations for everything, and it's hard for me to accept that maybe that there's some stuff that there is no natural explanation for it.
And then we find ourselves.
I gave you two pretty big examples. Yeah.
But then there's
Gravity
other
and
things where it kind of works the opposite too, Joe. I mean, I like when I think back of my encounter, when I try to figure out how did it move from A to B, like 40, 50 feet with no wind, everything still, I heard nothing, right? And people will say, oh, it could have used a portal or maybe it, whatever. And I'm thinking, or maybe it spends 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for decades of its life out there. And it just got so freaking good at moving from A to B that my brain can't really wrap myself around how somebody could be able to do that. Right. Yeah. It kind of goes both ways as far as when we try to explain things to ourselves.
Well, I mean, there are human beings that can do that to you, Joe. They can completely surround you, and there are human beings on this planet that can completely flank you and surround you without your knowledge or you're picking up on it at all.
I know some guys in the military that can do that.
Yeah, they're badass dudes, right? I mean, they're really good at that.
Well, I shared
you're saying it's more of a natural component rather than a trained. Obviously, with people it's trained in.
I shared an example of that when I was in the military for 6 years and I served in the 82nd Airborne. But when I first went in, I mean, stealth was not in my vocabulary. Okay, it's something that you live and breathe, and over time, it becomes a muscle memory type way of movement and locomotion. But you look at somebody who's been in the military for just a couple years and how they move through the woods and through different environments. And then you look at like a 14-year vet from the 2nd of the 75th Ranger Battalion at how he moves. And it looks like two different creatures. I mean, you're not processing sound. You're not. But there's a component that I think Leon brought up, and we've talked about on some of our various shows in the past about sensory overload of when you have an encounter and you say, well, did you smell anything? Or did it vocalize? Sometimes the PTSD induced shock of seeing something that right now your mind is preoccupied and trying to identify, and it's glitching out. It's going through that check down list. This is not a bear. It's way too big for a human. This can't be. It's not a moose. It's not a deer. And you're so preoccupied by that maybe there was a vocalization, but because your visual senses were so laser focused that your audible senses became almost dead to an extent, and vice versa. Maybe you didn't notice that you smelled something because you were so busy trying to process what you're hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's valid. I think that's a valid point or theory. Yeah, sure.
What's up,
everybody? I just popped in a little late. I'm Anthony.
I appreciate you coming in. Doug wanted me to make sure I welcomed you because I told him earlier I sent some invites out to Eric and Mogs and Anthony, and one of the comments he had made is, oh man, that Anthony, he's such a nice guy. Make sure you tell him I said hi. Oh, here he is back. He can tell you himself.
Yeah, sorry, I had to step away. Hey, Anthony.
What's up, good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see you.
How's everybody doing? Happy Halloween.
Yeah.
Happy Halloween.
Yep, that's all I popped in for, by the way. Was just say happy Halloween. I'm right in the middle of a big project in my garage. I probably should get back to it. But yeah, it's good seeing all you guys.
All right, Doug.
Likewise.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna bop out of here. But yeah, happy Halloween, everybody.
So we're giving away a book. Hey, Doug, can you tell us a little bit about the book that we're giving away?
Oh, Sasquatch Central. Yeah, it's a really well written book by Mike Quast. Takes place somewhere. I don't know if you had your.
Yeah. I did ask, and we did have a few guess it
cool.
Correctly. They were paying attention.
Takes place in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a really different book. It really is for a Bigfoot book. It's all based on stuff that's gone on. There's been now, I think they're up to 9 or 10 sightings on that property
Wow.
by different people.
Wow.
So it's significant.
Awesome.
You know, when you have that many different people that have seen these things, it kind of gets very valid.
Yeah.
No,
You know,
I
even
have
there-
the book. I haven't read it. What?
Oh, yeah, that's right. You won the book, Pat.
Yes. And by the way, thank you. Just so everybody knows, Doug sent me a Sasquatch statue. Like that, I was not expecting. So
That's
huge.
awesome.
thank you
That's
very
awesome.
much for that.
So Doug
you're
had a
welcome.
contest on his show which is Wednesday nights on
Yep.
Untold Radio that he hosts with his son Alex. They had a contest, and they were randomly drawing people,
Yep.
and Pat had been the name that he drew, and actually the first name you drew was like in the UK or Australia.
Correct,
And
yeah.
Doug
Oh,
said, we can't
Nice.
mail this prize package to Australia. And I thought, well, why not? And well, then now I understand why you couldn't, because there's a 3 foot tall Bigfoot statue.
Yeah.
Life size. That's great.
Big.
Oh yeah,
That's
like
great.
Gary,
Yeah, lucky Pat.
like Gary. Hey, you got a Gary now, Pat. I'm not the only one with a Gary. No, you got one. Oh, you have to name him something other than Gary. Yeah.
Back up and stand next to it, Pat, so we can get an idea of how big this thing is. It's actually what'd you say? It's about 3 foot tall, ain't it?
Yeah, something like that. 3 or 4.
But it's up on a chair. It's up on a chair.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
Great
Yeah.
piece.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna pop out myself too. I just wanted to pop in because Eric
Look at the glue.
triggered that memory, and I know
that's
what
nice.
it meant. And it was like, man, this is gonna sound crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you popping on, Joe. For
Yeah,
those
man.
who haven't checked it out, Joe's YouTube channel, Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group. You can find it on YouTube, and he does a show every Monday night just before mine at 7 Eastern, right?
Yep. And I always try to make sure I'm off, and
Well, I
so I
appreciate
don't
it.
overrun this one. So
We share a lot of the same viewers. I know that.
yeah, and then it's like, all right, well, his show's about to start. See you guys. Thanks for coming. Let's jump over to there now. So
Well, I appreciate you,
cool,
Joe.
man. Appreciate it. Good to see you too again, Doug.
Take
Yeah.
care, Joe.
Yeah,
All right.
good seeing you guys.
Good to see you, Anthony. Sorry,
Take
I
care.
couldn't want to talk more, but I'll see you, Pat. All you guys.
All right. See you, Joe.
Later, man.
Later.
So
Say
Anthony,
Pat, when you won that, I thought couldn't have gone to a better guy.
Well, thanks, dude. All I thought was people are gonna think this was a setup.
No, we drew the name out of a big bowl. I mean, it was
yeah.
Yeah.
it's just
Well, you
random.
started with all the subs, which
Yeah.
was over 1,000.
Yeah.
And you narrowed it down to 30, and you put 30 random
Yeah.
names from those in a bowl, and then Alex drew one of those.
Yeah.
And so you literally
Alex
were
doesn't even
picked
know
out of
Pat.
1,000.
Yeah, Alex doesn't even know Pat. So
True
Crazy.
story.
he says, Pat Turner. And I'm like, I think I know Pat.
Yep.
So no, it's pretty cool. It's keeping it in the family.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, when we give away the Chevy truck, the new Chevy truck, you're disqualified.
That's coming to me. That's coming to me.
No,
I
I'm
got
good.
Look at this.
I don't need a Chevy truck. I'm good, man. I got what I need. I have the perfect vehicle for me. I don't care nothing about a Chevy truck. But if you want to give away
You're
a
missing
thermal
out.
drone, advanced thermal drone, I'll enter that contest. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I'm going to buzz off and let you guys chat. We'll see
All
you
right,
guys.
Thanks so much,
Later.
Doug.
Thanks. Good night,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Good
man.
Good night, audience. Bye.
I'm just going to assume that I'm probably disqualified from that too. So,
I'll be there for that truck, man. I'll be
Oh,
there.
Yeah.
Me too.
so Anthony,
Yes.
thanks for joining us. You popped in right
My
mid-story, but
My pleasure.
um,
Just sorry the kids had a Halloween party next door and I had to take my little one. I thought it was going to be over by 9, but you know how that goes.
no, it never is. So Anthony's a buddy of mine, and he's got a great channel, Unidentified S4. You're growing that channel pretty quickly too. I mean,
Yeah, well, we have the two channels. We have Unidentified S4 and Paranormal Detectives, so we get a lot of overflow. And then I work on Paranormal Highway, which is another big channel, so I get a lot of overflow from the other two.
So,
What's-
judging by the accent, I think most
New York?
people can kind of pinpoint where you're from or the area.
Yeah, I'm from Jerusalem. No, I'm from New York.
Wow. Australia?
Yeah, I was about to say
Shabbat.
New Zealand, maybe.
Shabbat and everything.
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about? Experiences?
Yeah, well, you are heavily into the ufology community, and you have got. I mean, I quit counting dozens ago, but a lot of videos that you've posted.
So
that
Oh,
you
Hey,
just
can-
go
can
out
I
and
ask
do
a-
live shots out
Can I
there on
ask
the.
a question real quick?
Sure.
Is that the S4 channel? Is about ufology?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm sorry. This is the first time I met you, bro. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah,
I just
I'm
wanted to
Anthony.
know.
Pat, pleasure.
Yeah.
So it all started for me back in 1993. Dirt bike riding as a kid. We had a track across the street from my house in the woods, and out riding with a bunch of friends on a Saturday morning. And I stopped to gas up around, I don't know, 9 o'clock in the morning or so, 10 o'clock in the morning. And I stop in, I'm drinking a bottle of water, I'm sitting on my bike, and I happen to notice a black triangular craft floating in the sky over the woods, and it started dropping lower and lower and lower and lower till it was maybe about 1,000 feet above, and it just had sat there. And I was 13 at the time, so I had assumed as a stupid kid that the stealth bomber hovered. And I'm just watching this thing, and I'm in amazement that we had a craft that can hover like that. And shortly from seeing that, a second one had slid off the top on like a 45-degree angle, and they sat side by side, and they started slowly like dancing around each other. And I stared at this for about close to a minute. And then the one that appeared from the top slowly went back over it, and they went straight back up until I couldn't see them no more. After that had happened, I heard my parents screaming my name. It was my mom, my dad, and they had my little sister, and everybody was screaming my name, Anthony, Anthony, where are you, Anthony? And I had yelled at him, I'm over here on the track. And my dad came running over, and he was so pissed. I'm like, what's going on? I said, he says, I'm calling you for hours. And I thought typical dad bullshit, I'm calling you for hours, but didn't answer me for a couple of minutes, and he's exaggerating it. But I then realized that it was almost 5 o'clock in the evening. I had lost a ton of missing time, almost 6 hours missing time, 5.5 hours. And I couldn't believe what happened. And got home. My dad's pushing my dirt bike back to the house. He wouldn't even let me ride it. I'm trying to explain, I was sitting here on the dirt bike looking up at this stealth bomber that was hovering above me, and it was amazing. And I'll never forget, he was so pissed. He like smacked me, like gave me a smack in the back of the head. Stealth bomber, don't hover. I don't want to hear none of this. And we got back to the house, and I was punished. They took my motorcycle away, even though I was trying to explain. And it wasn't until 1997 when we had the Phoenix lights over Arizona that I can say to my parents when it was on the news, that's what I seen. I had seen a triangular craft just like this, and they still didn't believe it. But that was my story. That's how it all started from for me, and then from there on, I just went down that rabbit hole like of obsession. Like I'm 3D printing these things and making a million drawings of them. You get obsessed with it. You just immerse yourself in the subject to the point where you have to try to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, man.
Where in New York did that occur?
That was on Staten Island.
Okay.
That's tough.
And maybe a 6 or 7 acre, wetland, sand wetland area. And it was so weird. It was the strangest experience. Nobody else had seen these objects. I had asked all my friends. There was about 12 of us in the woods that day. Nobody's seen it. When those craft were over me, though, the strangest thing was everything went silent. No birds chirping. I didn't hear, when you play it back in the head, I don't remember hearing none of my friends whizzing by on their dirt bikes, out in the woods. I don't remember any of that. It was just dead silent when like everything went quiet. Like I was in another world. It was really crazy. And yeah, that's how it all started for me. And since then, I've always been out in the field, buying good camcorder, night vision, thermal, and filming the sky. And since then, I filmed a ton of like Jeff said, just a bunch of stuff. I travel all over and film these things, and there's definitely something up there. I don't know if it's alien or if it's our technology, but there's definitely something up there that we don't know what it is, and it's amazing to catch when you catch it.
Well, speaking of that, Trackway, can you hear me right now? Trackway is filming out there in the night. And
Yeah,
he's got
I can hear you.
What are you filming there? What is that?
Actually, I'm just standing in the middle of a power line right now, and that's the moon.
No.
Oh, the moon.
And then something just zipped across the trail up ahead of me, and I think as small as it was, I think it might have been a possum. So I really don't want
What
to.
are y'all looking for? UFOs or Bigfoot or what?
Well, I was out here Saturday and saw some strange lights, so wanted to come back and bring somebody with me because I'd wear glasses. I didn't know if I was seeing reflection or not, and wanted to see and investigate these lights. And the other part of it is I'm a hunter and I'm out here hunting. So
cool.
I'm out here killing two birds with one stone.
Awesome.
So Trackway, do you like camp when you're out in those areas, or do you have a hunting cabin out there, or where do you stay?
We're just in a tent right now.
Nice.
Normally I have a trailer, but getting up there in years, I got to have my mule with me, my 4-wheeler.
Yeah.
So I can just rather than making 2 trips, it's a long way to get here. I just
so
start
everybody
doing-
understands, what part of the country are you in right now?
Ohio.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's I don't know what the weather was like there, but it's been in the 60s this week here, and then last week was in the 40s, but it's back to being pretty nice here. Even the overnights are cool, but campable. I suppose
Yeah,
it
it's only-
sounds like that there too, huh?
It's down to 54 tonight. The
Perfect weather.
Yeah.
the deer are moving. I kind of thought
Perfect.
that the heat would slow them down, but I got out after 2:00 this afternoon and I saw 9 of them. Yeah,
I
as a
would
matter
much-
of fact, I got pinned. I got pinned earlier tonight. I got out in the woods and I got to my tree stand and I went to go up in it and I look over and there's 3 of them and they came right at me and I had and I caught it on video and I'll put it up sometime.
Busted.
I had 2 does and a spike less than 10 yards away from me and I'm stuck on the ground in a kneeling position. And I couldn't move and it wouldn't leave me for like 10-15 minutes.
I've got a video that I'm going to post on my old channel. I might share it next week here, but last year I was in a ground blind archery hunting, looking over a bean field, and you can see this deer way out there, a couple hundred yards out. And I had a decoy out, and I had my son with me, and we're sitting there, and I can hear a cat meowing, just meow, meow, like a kitten. And eventually, through the window of the ground blind, up hops through that window this little, I don't know, farm cat from somewhere. I don't know where it was from. Didn't have a collar, about half grown. And it's cold. It was like 40 degrees out. He's sitting on my son's lap in his coat as my son's warming him up, just meowing away. And he's petting him. And I kept telling him, I says, man, I'm filming this. I said, if this thing doesn't shut up, there's no deer that's going to come anywhere near us, And it was meowing. At this point, it had been like for 15 minutes.
Probably hungry.
And I said to him, I said, I don't know what we're going to do. We just well quit hunting. And I look right up, and I'm filming him and this cat. And I look right out the side window of my blind. And there is a small spike buck. It's a forkhorn, actually, 2x2. It's a year-old deer. Standing there 5 feet away from the blind looking in the window at us.
Oh, wow.
I could not believe it. I got it all on video.
Drew it in. It was a young deer, Probably heard the kitten.
It was just curious. It probably didn't have enough seasons under its belt to know that hunters are bad,
None of that's shocking to me. The deer that are around me, I could almost go up and pet them. I'm serious. It's like a petting zoo almost.
Yeah, that's how it is in Jersey.
If I had the right feed to give them, I could feed them out of my hand.
That
Like deer are different in rural areas that are populated by a lot of people, but still kind of rural. And there's a lake. I have a lake here. The deer are not hunted here. I mean, dude, they're just not sketchy. They're not sketchy like deer out in areas you would hunt. It's weird. It's weird to me. Turkeys too. Turkeys are like pretty chill out here.
All of my tree stands that I hunt and my ground blind areas are all within a few hundred yards of my house. And my house is literally bordering the Blood Run State Park, which is about 500 acres. And that's where all those 280 some Indian burial mounds that we've been working on a documentary on.
You want to see, I'm sorry.
And people don't hunt that area. I mean, there's hundreds of deer in this park, but they just don't. It's a protected area by the state that the state doesn't give out licenses in. So when I have deer come up around my areas and the stands that I hunt, they seem, I don't want to say tame, but boy, you got to really do something stupid to get them to run away sometimes.
Yeah. Here it's like a progressive level of alertness. So, in July or whatnot, we was walking right up on them in the dark, the deer that is.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you come January, because of hunting pressure and we don't, mating pressure, the way the does and the bucks act and everything else, come January, if you crack a stick, you'll clear out a whole field of deer in no time flat. And then they'll come back down. That level of alertness will come back down.
Yeah.
But right now you're kind of, you got the mating phase that's just really starting to kick in. The bucks are bumping does, and man, that light feels so close. But
you wouldn't. I mean, you wouldn't believe it unless I could prove it to you. Probably. I mean, in the suburbs of Atlanta, Georgia, and we're talking about amongst 5 million people, where the Chattahoochee comes to Atlanta. I mean, you'll see 30 deer just laying around in somebody's yard in a suburb, like a heavily populated suburb, and they just don't care. They really don't.
He's absolutely right.
Did you see that light up that way?
We went on a paranormal investigation last week, my buddy and I put the video down there. This is in New York City, and the deer is on the sidewalk in the residential neighborhood, just walking through the residential neighborhood, eating garbage like he belongs there. Like, I've never seen anything like it. We've become so overpopulated in New York with deer, and I mean in the city. It's insane now.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want, I got the video down on the bottom. If you want to show it, you're more than welcome to.
Well, my sister lives outside of. She's in Jersey. She's over in Bergen County, and she gets deer in her yard. There were never deer there before.
Yeah, this overpopulation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just where she is. It's so populated as far as people goes. You would never expect a deer to be there.
It's the funniest thing to watch, but they actually do guided hunts in the city of Cincinnati.
Really?
Yeah, we have that here too. We have a lot of deer that are in the city area, which, like Sioux Falls, South Dakota, will have. That's about 300,000 people is all. But I mean, in the city, we'll get deer all over in the city limits. And what they do is they every year they'll get police officers who are also, hunters, which is about half of the people that live in the state are hunters. And they'll go out, and in a 2-night period, they'll go out and they'll shoot 30 or 40 does, taking them out of these rural areas, and they'll process them and bring them to the food banks and give them away to feed the hungry. But it's one of those things to where, for any healthy big game population anywhere to exist and be healthy, it relies on harvest or control by harvest. I mean, you have to, the state's got it down to a science on how many tags should be issued to thin this population down so that it stays healthy and not at too high of a number. And most states have that down to a science. The problem is these populations of deer that establish in these metro areas where nobody can hunt them.
There's no
remain
predator. None.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, that's like by me. There's no hunting, and the city will come out and they'll snip them, so they can't repopulate. But even then, I mean, they're everywhere. And now we have a lot of foxes on Staten Island. We've never had fox here. I'm here 40 years, never seen a fox. And now you just go out one night and just be walking on the block. I mean, you hear stories in the paper about people's dogs disappearing and a fox being seen, and it's very common now. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go. Thank you for letting me come on.
I appreciate you coming on.
Good luck.
Sometime we'll have to tell ghost stories because we got a couple good ones of those. But
absolutely, we'll have you back at some point.
It's starting raining here, so I'm out.
All right, we'll see you.
Take care.
Later, Dragway.
We just went on a ghost hunt last week. I secured historic Richmond Town on Staten Island for us. And this place was built in the late 1600s. And my partner Ron and I went. We set up thermal cameras, night vision. We had about 7 cameras set up. And we were outside filming on the acreage behind one of this old property where they used to on the property we were at, somebody had got killed there, and it was the legend was that this person had haunted this property. So we're set up outside with the thermal camera. We're filming the window. We were asking a bunch of questions, and all of a sudden, in the therm, you could see the apparition walk right past the window and vanish in the thermal footage. And these are historic homes. The windows are nailed shut. The doors are nailed shut. They're just there for show because they were built in like the late 1700s, late 1600s, early 1700s. And right after the apparition passes the window, we're going through like asking questions and everything. Right after that happens, about 12 seconds later, we get an EVP of this thing laughing at us, electronic voice phenomenon. I'm asking the thing, can you give us a sign of your presence? And then it laughs at me because it just did that. And we didn't realize it yet on the thermal footage because we didn't check it yet that it had just passed the window. And that footage was unbelievable, man. We couldn't believe it. There's nothing like seeing a ghost on thermal imaging. I mean, it's
okay. I just got to say, this might be one of the best YouTube handles out there.
Agreed.
Paradoia will destroy you.
Oh my God, that's so weird.
Dynamite. That's the truth.
Jeff, I know Jeff, maybe Moggs gets that. Like, I would say me and Jeff get that 100%.
The kinks.
Yeah, Moggs gets it.
Well, I'm pretty sure I think I know a good deal about that as well.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sorry.
We're all with you on that one.
Yeah. I apologize.
No, you're fine.
So I'm wondering, what's the phenomena that makes a ghost show up on thermal? When you say thermal, are you talking like hot, like?
Yeah, a FLIR camera. Yeah, we had a thermal, a FLIR camera, hot and cold. We had Psionics night vision, a regular camcorder, and 2 regular camcorders, and then a Nikon P1000, all recording at the same time. And the only one it came up on was the FLIR camera on the thermal. That was the only one that picked the image up. Came up cold, yeah.
So I'm curious, and I asked this because I don't know.
Well, it came up cold.
When you
what were the temperatures? What time of year was this, and what part of the country?
This was a week ago on Staten Island, New York.
Okay, so cool temperatures.
I think that night it was about 60 degrees out, and the therm picked that up at 49 degrees.
Okay. And in a human shape?
Human shape. Head, torso, arm.
Colder than
the surrounding area.
Colder than the surrounding area. I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, like how it's registering.
Well, if it would have been a person like we've shown, the therm would have lit up white hot, yellow, some purples, This just lit up in that dark purple range because I had it on the orange, purple, white tones.
Okay, so there a paletted therm.
Correct.
What camera?
FLIR.
FLIR. What brand? What model?
It's I'll show you right now. It's a FLIR attachment that attaches to the cell. One of
To a
these.
cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's FLIR 1.
Right, FLIR 1. That's it.
I have one.
Great camera. Great attachment.
Never used it.
Very good.
So I wanted to ask, when it comes to thermal, and I have no experience in looking at any type of an apparition through thermal other
Neither
than
did I. That was
flesh and
the first.
blood.
Yeah.
Do you think that it would make a difference if you were filming in white hot versus color? Would one work better than the other, or?
I'd be lying to you if I knew. That just happened to be the setting that I had it on, and it just happened.
Another interesting thing to consider here, and I'm just saying this from the 1,000-foot back view of when you see people that are doing paranormal investigations, you see people that go look at haunted prisons, things like that. It seems to be a really common thing when they'll say, whoa, it feels like the temperature just dropped 15, 20 degrees, like that, right? When that happens, do you think that it would make the ability for something else to register hotter that maybe isn't really that hot? It's just compared to whatever that air temperature is, it's going to look hotter
very possible.
Quickly.
Very possible. It is such an odd technology when you're doing that. I mean, if you're looking at panes of glass on a window, you got to think about reflections. You got to think about animals that can get into an abandoned home. But we show all of that. We show you what animals look like on the FLIR, what people look like on the FLIR. We showed you what the windows look like without that thing in the window. They were just yellow in the yellow range, probably because they were warmed from the sunlight all day. So it was just an odd catch, and the string of events that went along with it, that's why we think 100%. Well, I'll call it 90% that it was an apparition. The EVP.
When you're dealing with temperature drops, especially at the end of the day, you're losing daylight, let's say, or even an hour or two into the evening. There are surfaces that hold heat way better than other surfaces do. And part of understanding how the technology that you're holding works is understanding all the stuff in front of you and how that works too, because dark tree bark will hold heat longer than the leaves on the tree or tufts of grass. They cool down easily.
That's right.
So understanding where you may be interpreting a heat signature from something, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a living thing, or in this case, a ghost.
I was going to say, not living.
Yeah, not a living thing.
But hey, Jay, welcome to the show. I'm sorry I didn't catch you right when you came in with the welcome. The one and only Jay Fritz is joining us here.
Well, there's a misconception that I got eaten by an alligator. I just came on to show that I didn't get eaten by an alligator. Okay.
Well, that's good that you didn't get eaten by an alligator.
Yeah. Somewhere there is an alligator that is not suffering from indigestion.
No, I just listening to the conversation. Sometimes when I don't have anything to add, I just sit here and listen. So.
You like the chair, furniture.
I appreciate you.
I wanted to ask that. How heavy is that Sasquatch statue that you got there? Because that looks heavy. Is that solid?
A little bit. It's fairly solid. It's not carved wood.
That's what I thought it was.
What?
I thought it was carved wood. That's what I thought it was.
No, it's not. It's not carved. It's not like red oak, which would cost like $1,000. It's
It's not light like hollow plastic either, though. You said it was
No,
like
yeah, it's
between
somewhere
15, 20
between.
pounds.
Oh, it's got good weight to it then. That's a nice piece,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. It's I'd say 20 pounds is
Cool.
ballpark. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
yeah. Thanks, Doug.
It's not. That's not one of them dollar store Sasquatches.
Oh
That's
no.
No, it costs like, you go online and buy it, $150, something like that.
you don't just win one of those at the fair, you know.
No, you don't.
You got to win it on Doug Hijack's Untold radio show, I guess. Out of 1,000 people.
Somebody
Cat Turner.
3D printed me a nice one last week, and I broke the arm off already. These 3D printers, you know, they just if they're hollow, they just snap right off.
You were playing with it with your other Star Wars figures, and
I was showing it. I was
Got in
showing
a
it. And
lightsaber
I was
fight
showing
with
it. I
Luke
grabbed the arm,
Skywalker.
and it came right off. So
Luke Skywalker lightsabered his arm right off of him.
sure did.
That's funny.
Well, I haven't
So
done
where
any
else?
ghost
Where else do
hunting.
you do your paranormal researching, Anthony?
Oh, we go all over the United States.
Oh,
Same
right
thing with the ufology, all over, wherever it takes us.
One
We're
of
gonna try
the
to get
things
out to Roswell for a week this year. Would be nice.
Oh, that would be
My
cool.
dad had a sighting in Arizona.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in Sedona, actually. Thing flew right over his house twice in 1 week. There were witnesses, and he didn't talk about it much. He talked about it, but like the other witnesses are like, they don't talk about it. It's weird.
Because some people don't like to talk about it, which is odd. Because if you see something amazing, you would think people would want to talk about it.
What
Absolutely.
did? Well, I'm curious, Moggs. What did he? How did he describe it?
Well, this was 93. He had just had a house built in Arizona, in Sedona. And for whatever reason, he was working on the house. He always tinkered. So I don't know if he was putting downspouts up or gutters, whatever he was doing. You would think this stuff would be done if he just had a house built. But
Right.
him and this guy were outside. It had just gotten dark, and he heard a hum. And they were like, just a hum, just a, so they looked up. And they could see that whatever this was like the size of a football field, and it blocked out. They could tell because it blocked out all the stars.
Wow.
Out there, the skies are amazing. Anything gets in the way, you're going to know it.
Yeah.
And it went away. They went inside, and his wife at the time was like, "What's wrong with you guys? You look like you saw a ghost." And they told her what happened. She didn't believe it. So almost a week later, my dad was in the hot tub. He heard that hum again.
Oh, man.
So he hops out and runs inside and says, "Guys, come outside." And they come up. They're like, What? He's like, they go out to the back deck. He goes, "What the F is that?" And they all saw it. And it was the same thing, the size of a football field. I don't know if they could tell if it was a triangle or what.
Yeah, it had a shape on it. That's what I was going to ask.
He said it came over the house as they're watching it. 2 lights came off the bottom of it, a green light, and red light, or white and green, or whatever. And one went east, one went west, and then they shot back and met up with each other, and like they were chasing each other for a little bit. And then some jets showed up, and they went back to the lights disappeared, and then that thing got chased away.
Wow.
Well, there's some areas down in Arizona, Mogs, that are pretty well renowned where almost any Friday or Saturday night you can pull up, and there are people out there specifically looking for that. And I think one of them was Monument Valley in that area. And over in the Moab, Utah area, I know is a big area where people look a lot and have
They have
sightings.
UFO tours out there in Sedona. They'll go out there with their night vision and really good night vision, because I tried, it didn't work. Yeah, but they'll do tours, and some people have shown some pretty good videos from out there.
Yeah, Arizona's. I just got a video sent into my show about a week and a half ago from Arizona, from a semi truck driver. He's pulled over to the side of the road because he sees these 2 points of light in the sky that are low and really bright. And he breaks out a flashlight. He's got his night vision camera filming from the truck window, and he's shining the flashlight into the sky. And as he shines the flashlight at these 2 lights in the sky, a third one turns on, and then it turns off. He does the flashlight one more time. The light goes on the opposite side of all the craft and pops on again and then pops off. I mean, this video was amazing. It went on for 40 minutes, this sighting. He filmed the whole thing. It was incredible.
40 minutes. That's
40 minutes long. The whole thing
that's
went.
Impressive, actually.
Yep.
I might have a video to send you, actually, Anthony.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you have an email or something attached to your channel.
Sure. I'll drop it in the chat for you.
Okay, cool.
Oh, actually, we got a private chat in here. I'll drop it in there for you.
There you go. Well, it's a video that was taken here a couple months back along the Brushy Creek, which I investigate this area. And it's the fastest I've ever seen something fly away. It's insane. The speed it flies, it's unbelievable. And there was a drone expert that looked at it, and he was saying that, yeah, he didn't think there was any way it could be a drone or anything like that.
No
the formation. No, you have to see the video. It's really unbelievable. It's one of the best UFO videos I've ever seen.
Really? All right,
Yeah.
cool.
Green lights, a formation, take off 1,000,000 miles an hour. It's unbelievable.
I just dropped the in there for you. It's in the private chat for you.
Cool.
I'd like to make an interesting point, if I can articulate it. It's something that went through my head, I don't know, randomly about a week ago. Is that the UFO thing versus the Bigfoot thing? So when people go looking for Bigfoot, basically they're looking for a 8-foot tall monkey man, with wide shoulders, no clothes, hairy dude on the ground. Like, so literally when Bigfoot researchers look for Bigfoot on the ground, it's got to be incredibly frustrating to look for UFOs up in the air versus something you could like almost grab a hold of on the ground, right?
Yeah, you can't grab a UFO. You can't. I don't got one chained up in my yard, even though I wish I did. I wish I had an alien hanging down in my studio with me on the couch, but that'll never happen. I mean, just looking up all night with a camera in your hand and standing up and panning the sky all night for 6-7 hours, it kills your neck. It's terrible. And sometimes you go out for weeks at a time and you don't see anything.
I get that. And
so, it's a lot of work.
There's no intimate encounter there. Like, so with the Bigfoot thing, it's all about the intimate encounter. It's all about getting close and being around them.
Tell that to Travis Walton.
When you have an amazing sighting, it's an intimate encounter. It's a feeling like you've never felt before inside. It's just an overwhelming rush of adrenaline. I mean, you can't even get your words out correctly. Oh my God. You can't even believe what you're seeing. It's just you're yelling for people to come and get over here and look. I mean, it's awe-inspiring. And I'm sure it's the same way with a Bigfoot. You could say the same thing. Even though it's on the ground in the woods, you're never going to catch it. You're never going to put hands on it, right? Although somebody might dart it, there's still that opportunity.
You're staring it in the face. Like, it's a thing 20 feet away from you, staring.
You mean like a physical being?
Yeah.
Which
that's so that's not part of the UFO thing.
Sorry, Jeff. May I?
Go ahead.
With UFOs, I don't know that. Have you experienced fear from that? Like, I mean, you hear whoever, you think there's more fear with a Bigfoot, wouldn't you, than a UFO?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you said it was adrenaline, but you don't hear the fear part.
No, there are people that had horrible experiences, I guess, with abduction counters and things like that. I've never been abducted. I've had like dreams of being abducted, but that's all they are, dreams that just, frightening dreams. But I can't imagine if you were on the ground and a Bigfoot got his hands on you, if it was, animals together, rip you in half.
No, people see a Bigfoot 20 feet in front of them and piss their pants.
I bet.
Yeah.
So I want to ask something. I'm curious, and this maybe stems from my I naturally I'm a little bit of a think outside of the box kind of guy, and this is something that I had thought of years ago, an idea when it came to ufology. And this was before I really started getting into trying to research what I had experienced in my encounter back from '87. But when it comes to ufology, nobody really, whoever sees a UFO, expected to see one 30 seconds before they did. Okay. And for the most part, that's true in the Bigfoot world too, although there are a lot of people in the Bigfoot world who I think try to create scenarios or routines or conditioned environments to where maybe they think, okay, I've got a good shot at seeing something here. So they try to prepare themselves. But with ufology, a lot of times people see something that they don't understand what it is, and they didn't expect to see it, right? Like the truck driver that sent you the video. 2 miles as he's driving along, he didn't expect to see that before he did, right?
I don't know. No, he didn't.
So I started thinking, how could you condition an environment to where you could anticipate seeing a UFO? And it led me to just stick with me through this. This is kind of crazy. Remember the whole crop circle phenomena when that got really big going into the 70s, the Led Zeppelin cover, right? And a lot of those crop circles they proved were manufactured and hoaxed, but a lot of them they couldn't prove were manufactured. Right. They seem to have been so eloquently and uniformly laid down from an energy source rather than physically tamped down. And I started thinking, okay, when you see something, these intricate crop circle formations, right, with the little F's and the skeleton key looks that branch off of them and whatnot. If I didn't know how to speak Japanese and you wrote hello on a piece of paper and showed it to me, I wouldn't know what it says, right? And if I took that piece of paper and hung it on my fridge, I might have 100 people over and they all look at it and they don't know what it says. And all of a sudden somebody walks into my house that speaks Japanese and they're like, hey, hello. And I'm thinking, whoa, you know what that says? And they're like, yeah, I can speak that language. It made me start thinking maybe these crop circles, right, are if the ones that are real, if we could agree that some of them might be real, that we can't explain, they weren't man-made. If that was the case, and I say if, I'm not endorsing that, I'm saying if that were the case, if you went out into New Mexico or into Utah, into a desert where you are 30, 40, 50 miles from the nearest little town, and you took an exterior light generator, not the light, but a generator that size, and you laid out track lighting, LED track lighting, the size of 3 or 4 football fields that had one of those designs that you anticipate to be authentic, and you flip that switch on at midnight and surrounded that area with stereo cameras, whatever you had to do to anticipate a sighting. My whole point in this idea is that if crop circles were real, if some of them were real, they obviously are saying something that we can't understand, or at least those of us on this panel can't. I'm not going to say that maybe the government couldn't understand or somebody couldn't understand, but we don't get what they say. If you were some form of extraterrestrial that had placed that in a field at one point, and you're monitoring Earth, and all of a sudden you see this lit up, and you recognize it because you speak that language,
you might respond.
Would you not at least come in close to try to figure out what is doing this here? Could you not create a photo op, so to speak, for UFOs to try to draw in? And my question is this: forget the experiment. I started realizing that maybe this is a way to call the government to the table and prove whether or not they have that type of knowledge. Because if that's the case, I think that somebody would show up and they wouldn't even let you turn the switch on.
The
Why-
government.
why don't
If
we
you
vote?
laid that out and you made it known that you were going to turn this on and you were
Yeah.
going to try to photo it, I would bet you that there's a chance you might never get to the point where you get to turn it on that night.
Well, let's not say nothing, Jeff, and let's get out there and do it. I'm down to try this out.
Because whether or not you draw on a UFO, my point is if the government showed up and said there's no way in hell you're going to turn that on.
Yeah, watch me.
Well, my point is you've just proven one thing right there.
Yeah, that you're onto something.
And
Yeah.
it may not be a logical thing to turn it on because you don't know what it says. It might say, "Do you want to go to war?"
It might
Or
say,
you
"Bomb here," for
you
all we
might be
know,
starting
yeah.
something you don't want to start
Yeah.
there.
I mean,
But I
Drop
always
bomb
thought
here.
that was an interesting idea.
Very interesting
that-
idea. I always thought that they were mathematical equations in their language, like key components on how we can get from point A to point B in space, like time travel or space travel or interdimensional travel. I've always thought like you were, alphabetical. I've always thought they were mathematical equations in their language. That's how I always looked at them.
One component to a complex
Right,
algebra
exactly.
problem that on
it.
its own we would look at not knowing how to do algebra and say, I don't get
Exactly.
it.
And the reason they're spread all over the world in UFO circles, crop circles, is because one nation can't do it alone. We all have to do it together. The nations of the world have to come together and put these components together as one.
that's ideal.
And that would be a way for Earth to unify as one, to get us all together to complete.
Well, I didn't mean to lead us down a
That's
huge
how I've
rabbit
always
hole
looked at
here.
That's
Mind blown?
utopic, dude.
Yeah.
That's utopic thinking. So Jeff, basically, I mean, what comes to mind with what you said is the 5-note, close encounters, closing, bomb, 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 like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I guess
I
my
mean-
point is this. I'm simply looking at, I can't endorse whether or not crop circles are real or not. Obviously, a large number of them weren't real. They were proven to be hoaxes.
Those two old
Some
guys.
of
I
them were
can't
looked
remember the
at
name
and
they
said, especially where Mr. Lee is. Mr. Lee asked if I've ever seen a crop circle. I haven't. I know in the UK, that's really a popular area where these were occurring for decades.
why would
And
people do that though?
I've heard a theory of why they might do that, to be honest
I
with
mean,
you.
are they imitating something that's real, which would be comparable to Bigfoot, like in the Bigfoot world, be comparable to Bigfoot hoaxers?
Are you
Like,
saying,
there's a
Pat, why
real
would people
phenomenon
hoax one?
that people hoax?
Are you asking
Is that
why
what's
would
going
people
on?
hoax a crop circle? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm saying if you fully admit that the vast majority of crop circles are easily explained as something a person can do, so therefore people are hoaxing crop circles. Why? Because there's a real phenomena of
Well, I think when you hoax a crop circle, ones that were purportedly made by humans, there were telltale signs that had been done. Stake in the middle, string out, this flat rake looking thing that they're walking on, tamping it down, and they keep going around working their way in. And they've actually went out and recreated this to show
but
how
that-
easy it'd be to
but
do it.
some of those exact things that you described were reported as actual crop circles, like unexplained phenomena that ended up being explained by humans.
No, what I'm saying is the ones that were made by humans, they've gotten really good at being able to break this down and say, no, this was human made. Then there's other ones that they look at that are laid down with an even energy force that does it, that they're looking at going, there is no evidence that a human went out and used those methods to do this. And not saying that a human couldn't somehow, but they seem to be able to discern between hoaxed ones and unexplained ones.
That was the same narrative about crop circles 30 years ago, which has been debunked. So, like, yeah, I'm just trying to understand, like, what crop circle is like, oh my God, this absolutely can't be human made. Like, what?
Oh, I can answer that for you.
Yeah, there's
The
a few out
the
there.
real crop circles, when they're made, the joint, the node in between the joint on the piece of wheat or whatever, it
Mhm.
stretches dramatically when this encounter happens, opposed to a fake crop circle where they just mash it down. The node, the joint on that piece of wheat or grit, it doesn't grow 4 or 5 times the length in that period of the encounter. Okay, so the day before, the joint on the node can be a half an inch. The next day they go check and it's maybe expanded 3 to 4 inches. Not only that, they pick up a high level of magnetism on the crop circle itself, microscopic particles of metal, and it goes very high on EMF detectors. So there's that.
That sounds pretty definitive. Like, yeah.
Well, how
I
would you?
don't. I honestly don't have. I haven't even researched this online, so I mean, I am such an elementary understanding of it.
It's so definitive. It should be definitive, like, but it's not somehow. Like, you see, you see where I'm like, the circle doesn't square. No pun intended.
I mean, I don't know how you would get something to grow 3 times its size.
I don't know.
In an encounter like that.
I mean, to me, that just sounds like I apologize, dude, in advance here. That just sounds like
science. It's science.
Like,
I mean,
it sounds like narrative and rhetoric. Like, I don't know exactly what you're talking about. Can you show me some studies that have been done on that? Like,
there's been thousands of studies. You want me to drop one in the chat for you?
No.
Colleges, universities have been studying this since
you can email me. You can email me. Yeah.
I know that the
show me the scientific body that says, "Holy shit, that's not possible."
Well, I know that the extent that it's been examined and looked into by, let's just say, science in general, whether it's a university, whether it's a lab, is way more in the UK than they've really been in the US, if I'm not mistaken. There were so many different universities signed on to look at this stuff, or willing to look at it and analyze it. Whereas in the US, it just seems like it was something that really wasn't touched for a long time. But anyways.
Okay, let's just say, like, there's some mysterious crop circle things going on. Is there anything to learn from that? Is there any answers to that about the UFO phenomena?
Like Jeff said, it could be an alphabet. It could be mathematical equations. If we can't read the language, we can't deduce what they're trying to say. That's the whole problem. That's like me trying to speak Ethiopian, right? You show me something in Ethiopian right now, I'm not going to know what it says because I don't speak Ethiopian, right? It's the same thing with the crop circle. If real, it could be a language that's unknown to us. One graph can mean a whole paragraph. You and I don't know that, just like symbols in Japanese. One symbol can mean a whole sentence, right? So one of these crop circle graphs can mean a whole story.
I get the whole "it could be" thing.
That's the problem, though. It could be. Yeah. We don't know.
Like, exactly. That's
listen, for sake of clarification, I don't think anybody's came on here stating something factually. And like, for instance, Mr. Lee said, Jeff, you and Pat don't know what you're talking about. So what, listen, I didn't come on here claiming to be an expert on crop circles. I said, here's an idea that I had, right? Like, if some of these were real, could you create a situation to where either the government shuts you down, doesn't let you flip the switch on, or could you create an environment where something that recognized that made that image originally says, whoa, what are they doing flashing this back at us, and come in closer look at it? That was it. I mean, it was pretty elementary.
What you said was awesome, man. I've never heard somebody say something like that before. That's a really cool thought. And imagine if it worked. It could be a game changer, right? Look what the government's doing now. The last time we had not today, but a couple months ago when Congress had their whole UFO thing, their whole UFO conference, right? They said that they wanted to start going after people that are putting up hoaxed videos all over the internet and all over TV and flooding everything with, these hoax videos. They want to start.
And they would be the
charging people
determiner
for doing
of
that,
what's
criminal
a hoax
activity.
and what isn't.
Why would you do that if, UFOs aren't real? It's only
Imagine,
now that the
imagine if they
government's
did that
not
with the
saying they're real.
Bigfoot community.
What's that?
Imagine if they did that with the Bigfoot community. The government's going to come after those who hoax, but yet the government's going to determine who's hoaxing and who isn't.
Right.
Well, I mean,
Nonsense.
my understanding, and this was actually huge to me. My understanding was that the DOJ admitted with the with the different videos from the Super Hornets and offshore training incidents that happened involving UFOs, right? The DOJ admitted we don't know what they are.
Right.
So for
well,
me,
now we know that those 3 videos were all drones. You're aware of that, right?
What?
Now, all 3 of those videos, the Tic Tac, the Gimbal, the Go Fast, they were all drones. Not ours, but they're drones. They're not of extraterrestrial origin. We think they're from China or Russia. That's the government's theory on that. So Jeremy Corbell and Leo Elizondo try to sell us the narrative that they were alien, and they're not. They're drones.
No. The government did not say that. The government said we don't know what they are. The DOJ literally said we don't know what that is. They did not.
And now the new finding 6 months later is that the 3 videos are drones. I can send you the United States Navy's findings on them.
And then I think the latest thing the government said to put finality to the argument was you will not be getting any more video or any more evidence from us as to anything. They shut the door on it.
The DOJ's department, not DOJ.
DOD.
Sorry. Yeah.
Department of Defense.
That their official position was we do not know what that is. They never
in the beginning
they never said, oh, we spiked that. That's definitely Chinese drone technology. Like if anybody the
they
best
came out
technology in the world
a month ago and said that it was all over C-SPAN, Fox, Channel 7. I could pull it up right now and send it to you if you like. I mean, I do this for a living, Pat. I'm very in the know.
Well, I'm in the know about physics, so
okay.
Yeah, I mean how things are defying the laws of physics. It's not technology that we have or
that we've announced
that Russia has or China.
Right, that we've announced to have.
Yeah,
it could
that
be
we've
black
announced
budget
to have,
special black budget special projects, things that you have only eyes only clearance for.
And I'm a weirdo. That's what I think. I think half of the things, maybe more than half.
That's a real thing.
It's our stuff out there. That's it's my theory on
it. That's almost scarier than that. It might be.
That's right.
Right.
Could you imagine having if we have technology like the stuff we see that we can't explain? That would be pretty scary.
I'll honestly, we could go. This is one of those nights where I wish we just did the show till midnight because I'd love to keep talking about it, but we're gonna have to continue that part of this conversation later. And like I say, I mean, I brought up the idea just as an out of the box thought of, geez, if you're trying to film a UFO, everything that anybody who's ever filmed one had in common was that a minute prior, they had no clue that they were about to see one. So could you create an environment like research and people are trying to do within moving the ball forward on the Bigfoot mystery, I do want to announce real quick that the winner of the book was Jen, and we will be getting that sent out to you. Congratulations. Also, I want to thank everybody who joined us tonight. This was a fun show. I mean, this is the first show that I've done here on the Untold Network where we just sent some invites out, threw the invite into the chat, and kind of crossed our fingers. We always run one of the things that I have to wrestle with is, Doug likes to focus on not just what we do here live in this moment of time with our live interactive chat and whatnot, but for the thousands that may come along and view the show later and the podcast platforms that it gets put to. And when you start factoring that in, especially the podcast part of it, you start worrying about, well, how is this going to work with 6 people or 8 people on a camera at once, right? Like when Pat starts talking and then Jay says something, people are listening on podcasts. They don't know that it's Pat that's talking now or Jay's talking now. So it could get confusing. But I think from a production standpoint, I think it went real well. It was an interesting conversation. We got to hear some great, experiences from you guys, sharing them. And I appreciate you guys sharing all of those. But anybody else got it? Why don't we just talk about, almost most of you all have channels except for Jay. Mogs.
Jay has everybody else's channel.
Mogion Monster on YouTube, broadcasts on Tuesday and Thursday nights, right?
That's correct.
And this is the kind of format that is your typical format, is you'll throw the link up in chat. People can pop on and we'll talk anything fishing to Bigfoot to whatever, right?
Indeed.
Best way to grill a steak, right? I mean, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the simple things like the best way to grill a steak, we can start a debate and chat, and it gets passionate and interesting,
Yeah.
Eric with Media Palace, tell us where we find you on YouTube, and when are do you do regular broadcasts, or do you just do kind of random stuff?
Yeah, so I do more or less kind of random. I'm trying to be a little bit regular about it, but I really only pop up when I have something, to talk about, really. But I'm working on my second documentary, Expedition Brushy Creek, and I think it's going to be really interesting. I have a lot of cool stuff going on in there. And last night I actually did a midnight drive down the Hairy Man Road, which has been closed for a year.
I seen that.
There's a whole backstory about that, and that's really what.
So Doug had you on one of his past episodes. So if you go look at Untold Radio's playlist on the Untold Radio channel, you'll be able to search back and find where Eric was on. I had you on shortly after that. We talked on my old channel, and we were talking about the structure that you found down there, the stone structure, the story behind it. I don't want to give it away. Everybody should go check it out. It's interesting.
Well, I tried going back recently, and I'll just say we weren't welcomed back to the area.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So Pat has Squatch Talk, and you are typically on Friday nights, right?
Yeah, most Fridays when I can do it. Recently, and then whenever I feel like podcasting.
Yeah.
All
right.
It can be random. It can be scheduled. Yeah.
And Anthony, you're running 2 channels. You got the S4 channel, and what's the other one?
Unidentified S4 and Paranormal Detectives is the new one that we just put up.
Okay.
And we're on Unidentified S4s on Wednesday at 12 in the afternoon Eastern time, and Sunday at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So come on and hang out.
Yeah.
I will sub.
I got something to send you too, man.
I appreciate that, and good luck on that documentary, man. It sounds amazing.
Thank
I
you.
just found your channel. Actually, I did sub until I was summoned.
At like
Eric does good work.
Has much talk. Mog, you have a channel too, Mog?
Excuse me?
You have a channel as well?
I do. It's called Mogia
awesome
Monster. Why the Fascination? And it's just a free for all. I put the link in chat. And anybody wants to come on and talk about whatever,
Tuesday and Thursday nights.
Yep, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Wide open.
Currently.
And Jay, what do you got on the agenda? A couple trips to Sonic, or what do you got going on lately? You're on mute.
You're muted, Jay.
You're on mute.
That's pretty much it. I just fill in spots is all I do. Empty spots you have on here. I'm gonna say one thing about the subject y'all was. There's things in this world that we aren't supposed to know, and we don't need to know.
That's right.
Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
Words of wisdom from
Words of wisdom are right.
Eloquently said. And Jay has had, he shared in the past on Joe's channel and a couple other areas. Jay had a significant encounter when he was younger, and if you want to check those out, you can. Joe, who was here earlier, Western New York Bigfoot Investigation Group. Jay has shared his encounter on there, and you can go ahead and check out those past episodes and find that. But, gentlemen, I appreciate all of you joining us tonight. It was awesome.
Had fun.
Very
for having us.
appreciate everybody in chat who's joined us. Chose to spend your Monday night with us, and we will see you next week.